We're live, guys.
Hi, welcome to another edition of Body Electrician Live with your hosts, Cheryl Whitehouse, that's me in San Diego, and my co-host and partner in crime, Nancy Piscatello in New York.
Hey, Cheryl,
Say
what's
hi.
up?
Hi. And we have a special evening tonight. We have a special guest, Adam Abraham, who has a very interesting blog at philosopher.com. And we also have Wil Spencer. And this is a continuation of the conversation that we did last week, which I wasn't really part of, but we're going to go back into the vortex.
Sweet. You were there in spirit, Cheryl.
That's right, Cheryl. We were thinking of you.
Yeah, I was.
Wishing you well. How you doing, Will?
I'm doing pretty good.
All right, good. We're all
Another day in the meat grinder. It's always a good day.
meat grinder. Yep. All right, guys. So, Adam and I were talking a bit about that citrus greening situation you had down in Florida. So that's quite an interesting topic there. You guys want to venture into that a bit?
Sure, absolutely. It was a big eye-opening experience for me, particularly growing up in an urban environment in Chicago and not spending much time in anywhere near produce except in going by the produce department to get some canned foods. But I got an opportunity well, I'll put it this way. I did a video, I did a rant because the state of Florida is generally, let's say, infected. I'll use that as a term with this condition that's referred to as citrus greening. Every county in the state, every grower pretty much that's doing citrus is being affected and impacted by this condition. And it is purported to be caused by a certain virus, certain bacteria, okay? And that bacteria is in the belly of a certain insect called a psyllid. And so, and when you hear people talking about it, the opinion makers, they say, it originates in Asia or something to that effect. And given what I've been learning over the last few years, it just wasn't adding up anymore. And so I pretty much said it, and I presented an opinion that it had more to do with things that are happening right here in the U.S. than what it was imported from Asia, for one thing, and a lot having to do with the use of glyphosate, which a lot of people have much more contact with than they probably realize, because that's one of the chief components of Roundup.
Sure.
It's funny, you go in virtually any hardware or your Home Depot and your Lowe's, and one of the first things you see, I don't know who pays for these positioning, but the first thing you see, you walk in the door, is what? Roundup. It's like everywhere. So at any rate, someone contacted me, and what I was saying made sense relative to the consequences of using those chemicals over and over and over again. And they invited us to come out and actually make a vortex generator to go on one of the orchards there. And
Adam, this is one of the citrus farmers. And
yeah.
was it an organic farm or more of a
Oh,
conventional?
excuse me. I don't know if it's even blasphemy to use the word organic. It's I mean, it is so chemically dominated virtually everywhere. I mean, organic is almost considered it's a third language, okay?
Yeah.
So no, it wasn't. This is predominant farming practice of today, which is agrochemical based.
Okay.
And so what basically, and going out there, I knew it wasn't just the water. I know water there's a lot we can do with water to increase its efficiency, but that's not the whole of the equation. So I asked Wil who was going to be in the area, coincidentally, if he would meet me there, and we would present a bit more of a higher or wider spectrum of results, because ultimately this comes down to the imbalance that these practices have caused year in and year out. And our simple task is to increase the efficiency of the water and restore the balance to the soil.
So you guys got together like as in partners in crime there. Oh, I'm getting an echo, huh? And Wil, where did you come in? You added certain things to the soil, I'm imagining, because obviously Adam had the whole vortex generator going, the water system, and then you came in with.
Adam presented an opportunity and asked if I was interested, and I said absolutely. We have over 500 strains of soil microbes, bacteria, that have been known since the 1960s to digest petrochemicals, pesticides, as well as to feed the plants. And so by putting the microbes on the soil and on the trees, we're helping to restore the ability of nature to do its job, and that is to remediate or to chelate or to detox the environment, and then the plant's immune system can begin to function properly, therefore giving the plant the ability to stop attracting the pests, just like a human being.
So you're saying, Wil, that it can actually do what humans do, as in letting go of toxins in some way?
I'm saying these microbes, and this is the way nature intended it to be before industrialization. This is the way it has been since the beginning of time, whatever that is. We have 40,000 years of recorded history that I'm aware of, and the Industrial Revolution is less than 200 years old. So this is previously the way the environment on this earth used to be and support this kind of what's the word? This kind of balance, if you will. The plant has an immune system just like people do, and all
It's
we've done.
self-sustaining.
What's
Say
that?
that again.
It's self-sustaining.
Right. The environment at one time in history was self-sustaining and had the ability to hold a balance much better than we do today, because we have a lot of industrial components in our environment that has killed off a lot of the ability for nature to hold that balance. And all we're doing is restoring the balance the best we can with the microbes that we've been able to find around the planet. And by the way, the United States Department of Agriculture over the last 50 years has sent microbiologists to every inch of the planet just about to collect these microbes. The Department of Agriculture at high academia is totally aware of the imbalance that we're living in. At the same time, the agriculturalists or the agronomists on the ground helping other farmers based in USDA, the Department of Agriculture's policies, are not sharing this information. So we have a staunch contradiction inside the Department of Agriculture on that level, where you've got the people in high academia agriculture collecting the microbes to identify what creates the balance, identify the strains. Then you have the guys on the ground that my dad used to work with and I used to work with that are not relaying the information that the higher academics are collecting. So we have this huge schism, this huge cavern of lacking information.
Hmm.
So I'm saying that the microbes that we've found came from biologists that have collected it from being employed by the Department of Agriculture. And so we've got over 500 of them now in combinations with high mineral content, which then applying it to the soil around these trees,
Right.
we're able to then help the trees get over their infections, as
Wow.
well as decontaminate the environment the trees live in.
You know, Will, just for 1 second, I just want to add too that somebody had just asked on the kitchen about their own plants. So this is going to tie in very well for I actually forget the lady's name, I'm sorry, but she had asked a question. She had house plants and wanted to help the soil there. So I mean, obviously what you're doing there, if it can help the citrus greening disease, I mean, it's got to be great for anything like that. Would I be correct about that?
Any living organism, for the most part, what we're doing, we have help to correct some of these imbalances. Because really, I've just taken people, what I've learned in agriculture, then applied it to people. And now, with that knowledge and success, we're focusing back to agriculture,
Right.
because we know that without good agriculture, without good, sound, sustainable, self-sustaining agricultural practices, humans are going to be negatively affected, as well as the plants and the animals in the agricultural systems.
So you guys did this back in January, was it?
Yes.
How long does it take till you can see changes?
Well, that can vary. There are two things. One of the first things that has to happen is something you can't really measure, and that is that there needs to be a change in the way one thinks. When I went out there, the people that invited me to come out, who actually paid for us to build this vortex generator, thing weighed over 200 pounds, to go on a 12-inch line. We held it up with a forklift and stuff to get it in. But the people who paid for that were actually not the growers. The grower was willing to accept it because, one, his productivity on that particular orchard had gone down from somewhere around 600
The boxes, they call them?
baskets, per acre, down to as low as 50 per acre. His productivity had plummeted, and he was using standard practices, standard agricultural practices, I'll call it. And but people's thoughts, their ideas, their methods are so ingrained. They're done without thinking, and they're done in some with some degree of trust that the methods themselves are sound because someone told them how to do it this way, or because that's all they know. So, for example, when I showed up there and saw this big vat of sulfuric acid sitting there, and I said, "Well, what's this for?" And it's for, well, when the pH of the soil which tends to run a little high, well, when they're irrigating, they inject a bit of sulfuric acid in, and it's like your jaw drops. Now this is on top of the pesticides that they spray, the herbicides that they spray, and then Will discovered that down in the orchard right down the way there at the end of the canal, something called 2,4-D was being sprayed. It was bombed in the air. I mean, this was just standard practice.
Wait, the sulfuric acid brings me back to that crazy movie, House on a Hill. Did you ever see that? That haunted house on a hill? And the bones go into the sulfuric acid. It was so creepy. Okay. You want
it
to
was
say, maybe?
it was fascinating to see when they were taking and cutting this pipe, and it was right near the injection point of the for sulfuric acid, how they saw a drop come out, and they would immediately stop and think, oh, I think I might have gotten some on my finger, and they would really stop everything and go to get some water on it to get it off. But can you imagine your root structure being as even much more sensitive than our fingers and stuff like that? What kind of reaction are they having when this is being put in? Now it's not at full strength, but again, those roots are a heck of a lot more sensitive. But this is standard agricultural practice these days. The name citrus greening disorder is just a name for this particular area, this particular set of circumstances, but these practices are being demonstrated virtually everywhere in farming, in mainstream agriculture.
You guys, after dealing with this, I'm wondering if you felt Mother Nature is much stronger than you realized. In other words, with that kind of abuse done to the soil, it almost seems like how could it possibly turn around? But did you guys feel strengthened by your connection to what the earth has the ability to fix itself if given the chance?
Well, that's an awareness on my side that's been growing for the last few years. I think Will's probably been more steeped in that than I have at this point, but I'm kind of a new kid to the block, to this club. But you see, this is part of something that we don't know about ourselves and we don't know about life. There's a term, homeostasis, and the term homeostasis refers to a state of balance. And left to our own, really, if life is set up to be in balance, first of all, and if we're in balance, we are in health. We have grown accustomed to thinking that disease is inevitable, and therefore we have accepted, because it's what was done before us. I mean, some of the decisions to put our metabolism out of balance were made before we were able to make decisions. I mean, I had a vaccination mark, a long time before I was aware enough to know what it was, even to ask the question. And so we're passing down these behaviors. I'll say that we have been passing down these behaviors, but ultimately those practices are the seeds of the disease.
Right.
No, the disease unto itself is not inevitable, and the thing is, when we restore balance, health will come automatically. It comes on its own, okay? But the balance that we restore is not only on a metabolic level, it's also on a mental level, it's on an emotional level, it's on a level of consciousness. It's not limited, and we have been parsed. We've parsed ourselves. Here's the body. People will talk about a mind. They'll talk about these immeasurable things, but we act as though they're not connected to this whole matrix. And that's really where our susceptibility lies, is not understanding the true nature and the true power of what we are. We are living beings. We are life expressing ourselves through form. And we are equal to anyone. There's no one chosen, and there's no special ones. Everyone is special. They're just people who believe some are and some are not, and there's differences there. We need to come to a point of knowing just how special we are, and then really live up to what we truly are.
And the earth.
In my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. Will, you got anything to add to that? I know you do.
Absolutely. I felt the emotional angst by standing in the middle of this huge area in Florida with the citrus trees, and it felt sad to me. Check out Adam's pictures that he posted on his blog, please. The trees are not as big as they used to be. The trees, some of them were less than 20% had leaves. The rest were dead branches. The color was not accurate for a healthy tree. The air was horrible. The water was foul in the canals. Just to give you a little hint, Delanne was with me. We spent about 10 hours in that grove with Adam, and the farmer was there, the harvester fellow, and the water specialist fellow was there. In 10 hours, we were there, and a week later, Delanne and I were feeling a little bit off. We did a scan on ourselves. Delanne had 14 different pesticides, all used in citrus, show up on her scan.
Oh my God, that's good.
Mine was not quite as much, but it was still prevalent that the pesticides clearly used in citrus growing were affecting us negatively.
Wow.
Amazing.
The trees, now, I don't know if you guys can, maybe you can get your head wrapped around this kind of language that I'm going to share, but I was taught very young, and as a young adult again, about nature and listening to nature from the physical body, not your ears, just picking up on the energy that you're picking up. And the environment that we were in for those 10 hours was severely imbalanced. And there was not, and I've been in groves of trees before that had no pesticide use, and there's a significant energy difference, emotional difference, that I was able to tell. Whether Adam got that or not, but Delanne and I did. Adam and I we haven't even talked about this part of it yet.
Well, interesting point. It's a whole nother level to the growing and what's being done to this planet and us. I mean, it's not just being done to the planet. It's being done. Adam and I were discussing that the last time, that it goes through the trees, it goes through the animals, the insects. It's everywhere. So, we're all dealing with it.
There's some things that I noticed in that grove, because I had a backpack sprayer on my back, and I did walk quite a bit, and I did walk around just looking and feeling and observing, and there was hardly any bugs in that grove. First of all, hardly any bugs. I think I only remember seeing like 4 birds, literally 4 birds in 10 hours. And it wasn't the same bird, you know what I mean? The back of my throat, which is one of my first indicators, became very itchy, scratchy, and had this weird taste in my mouth. My nose was plugged most of the time we were there, and it didn't clear up for a couple of days after we left. I had an oily film on my skin. For me, one of my immune responses when I am coming in contact with things in the air is to produce oils at your skin to protect your skin and your body from penetration. I was so oily that night. I had taken a shower just that morning, and I hadn't planned on taking a shower that night. I had to. My skin developed so much oil, which was highly, pardon me?
Like a protection, I guess, right?
Absolutely. It's highly unusual, and I didn't think anything of it while we were there, but that evening and I felt this coating. I don't know how to explain that. You just feel greasy,
Mhm.
like you walk into an auto body shop, or I used to own a machine shop on my farm, and you walk into the machine shop because of all the oils, the cutting fluids, and the other petroleum products in there. You feel a little off. You can just sense that. Well, I felt that way. So if I'm feeling that way and I'm a stranger, can you imagine the trees that live in that every day? And the bugs that live in that. There's so many things that were very enlightening, like the soil. The soil looked like almost beach sand, completely stripped and lacking color. There was a few weeds, not much weeds growth, not much diversity at all, because they use Roundup as a herbicide to kill all the growth in between the trees in the rows where they do the driving of their tractors and so forth.
Yeah.
So you're applying herbicide to kill the grass around the tree. All the water in the entire state of Florida for several years now has been mandated to be sprayed with 2,4-D, and that's all the irrigation water in the entire state. So no matter organic or not, they're being sprayed in the waterways, the irrigation ditches, with the chemical, and then that's a herbicide as well, and then that's being used as an irrigation water, and that's being applied to the groves of trees. And then you have the VOC, the evaporation of the water and all of this stuff in the air, which, by the way, you really can't see all of this stuff. The particles are so small in vapor. So you have all this going on simultaneously, and then we're trying to put beneficial things into the soil to correct the problem and to try to bring the immunity up and to enhance the ability for homeostasis on a higher level of health. And Adam was put his water vortex generator on the line to increase all the benefits of having better water. And I can say from personal experience, from my mentors as well as my personal experience, that remediating in this kind of situation, it almost appears to be a daunting task if you don't have cooperation. Because, like Adam said earlier, there was not just Adam and I at that field. We were asked to be there. And the alignment of the farmer and the alignment of the irrigation and harvesting fellow is actually going to be needed, because you cannot just apply one time and expect something to amazingly happen. It's great if it does. Sometimes it does. I'm waiting to hear back anything. I haven't heard anything.
Same
So
here.
I am concerned in a way, because at the same time, silence is not a bad thing either.
That's true. Agreed.
So I keep that right here to keep positive, because my heart wants to go, my already always wants to get depressed, because I'm aware of the situation, the Mount Everest that we're looking at in a way, because of multiple decades of abuse and neglect to the soil, in hopes of just making money, which I'm not dogging that at all, but now we're coming to the point where there's a personal responsibility now of people to get this problem resolved. And that's where the thinking is the real problem that we're coming up against. Adam introduced me to some other fellows in Oklahoma recently. They're on board with this. They've been doing this as long as I have or longer, and they understand. And they're expressing to me the exact same problem It's not the environmental is the problem anymore. The problem is between people's ears. That's the disease.
That's where it starts.
It also is where it can change and end, you
Yep.
know?
Agreed.
I'm hopeful because I've seen environments that were far worse than that grove that I stood in recover. I'm working with some Mennonite people. Well, not me, but Delanne and I in our business, we're working with some Mennonites that are converting a grove similar. They're doing apples, cherries, pears, things like that, different kind of fruit, but still fruit that were conventionally raised for quite some time, and they have problems. And we're going into the third year. They are doing steps using our stuff, and we're building the environment and we're remediating the environment, but at the same time it is a juggling act. By using our natural stuff, we still got to use some pesticides
Oh, wow.
because the bugs are so bad, because the health of the trees are that bad that we can build and build and build and build and build, but it's not fast enough to keep the infections down.
Let me see. I was wondering that.
We're gaining ground.
That's great.
It's no different than people. We tell people if you have to go to the hospital or the emergency room, you best go, because we're not in the reality of it is if you're in that triage type of environment where you have to, it's life or death. We're trying to build life on all levels. But if you're not able to sustain it, and sometimes healing is actually detrimental in and of itself. There's a dance that I call, there's a balancing act that has to take place. You've been using pharmaceutical drugs or pesticides for so long. Sometimes when you put the natural stuff back in concentration, it does funky things. And so you may have to use a bit of your pesticides and pharmaceuticals for a little bit and then figure out a little balancing act to then get the body or the tree into a state that it's going to be able to sustain on its own, unfortunately.
Well, you reminded me of my naturopathic doctor friend who passed, who we tried to help. And she had so much stuff done to her as well that it was a little too late.
Too little, too late.
A little too late, yeah. So it's so I see that people go that direction sometimes, but I mean,
There's something to be said when we talk about our patterns and habits of thinking. You know, sometimes a person becomes more willing to make a change before they've come to a place of really knowing that the change is the best, because there's a certain stress can occur through metabolic, through chemical, but also through emotional and mental processes.
oh yeah.
And I'm reminded of the experience of Dr. Gerd Hammer, who came up with German New Medicine,
Yes.
and the findings that he had. Well, first of all, he got cancer himself after his son had died from a hunting accident. But in the research that he did afterwards, and checking the MRIs of so many people with cancer, and seeing the lesions that were evident on their brains, and once he had seen so many of them, he started realizing, gee, there's a pattern to this. This
Right.
lesion appears to be toward that, and the pattern tended to connect. And the point is that as he helped those people, so first of all, every one of those people had some kind of stress or traumatic event And
Yes.
the traumatic event was whatever was traumatic to that person. It could have been, stepping off a curb and almost getting hit by a car, and stepping back and figuring going back to a fetal position. It didn't matter what it was. It's simply that this was the way that person reacted. And until that trauma is in some kind of way relaxed, it is healed, is is removed. It's the situation is not going to change. This is something that needs to occur. He found that when he helped people relax, and sometimes it was by forgiving, sometimes it was, I don't know whether it's by laughter or whatever ways it was. It was nutritional. He helped them in many different ways. But bottom line is, when that lesion was gone, so was the illness. And we are connected in every way to every moment of our experience. We are weak for when we believe we are in certain areas, and then we become susceptible to various things. And sometimes we need to be helped to see our strength and then to exercise it. Sometimes it's a matter of getting beyond fears that we have. If a person doesn't have something truly they want to live for, I don't care what you're doing, I don't care what the remedy is, they're not going to live.
Yeah.
So these are some fundamental things that we ought to know about ourselves that are not wrapped up in anybody's particular ecclesiastical story, let's just put it that way, or political dynamics. This is about life, and it's energetic. It's scientific, for that matter. I mean, this is science that I started to call mainstream science Zions with a Z. They're scientists, okay? Because I used to do it with a dollar sign first, but now I like it. They're scientists because they look at only what serves them and serves this great schism that is really at the core. We are really living in a reality, I'll call it a lie-based reality. And we think that there are some that are powerful and some that are not. We make the pursuit of money a destination unto itself, and we can put conscience aside. And if it's about getting $1, it doesn't matter how we went about it to get it. If there's a profit to be made, I mean, these are rationalizations that have allowed for unconscionable acts to be made, people to people, and then we think that technology is and expertise in technology is a definition or an indication of evolution, which it is not. So if we're still, you start looking at say police officers that have at some law enforcement agencies that have become militarized, and they're armed to the hilt, and they've got flak jackets on, and they've got bullets and this, that, and the other, and they still will beat someone who's standing there with a butter knife and say that they feared for their life. Something is wrong.
Right.
And these are lies that we allow. So it's not just them doing it. It's also incumbent on the people who allow that to occur. And it's not that you have to step back and say, okay, I'm going to fight fire with fire. I'm going to even up, and I'll have as many guns as this guy's going to have. What we're going to have, at least in my humble opinion, or not too humble opinion, is first of all we need to not have the capacity. Everyone has it. We need to exercise the capacity of love, the willingness to listen to others, the willing to be truthful, the willingness to be even have humility. And humility and humiliation are two totally different things. this is where our strength comes, because it's the seat of our humanity. So, you know, there are certain things. If you look at any one person who's doing something abusive and say, well, gee, if the tides were turned, would that person want this to be done to them? You get a pretty quick answer, and that's a quick that's a quick indication that, well, this isn't really the best way of interacting. And that's something that we tend to watch a lot of injustice, and then we'll sit and grouse about it and stuff like that, but it kind of continues to happen. And the thing that I have really appreciated in my adventures into these farms, for example, and as I've learned about nature, is to realize that we are actually our core nature is a loving one. Our core nature is a healthy one. Our design is not a mistake. There are no flaws in the blueprint that we are, and all of the variances, all of the anomalies have come from disruptions and you might say rewriting of certain information, but the base field, the base pattern is indelible, is immortal, and just that, our life, the thing that we are, which is a living being expressing through a physical form, is unto itself an immortal being. We are immortal now. We have always been immortal. I don't have any recollections of past lives and things like that. Some people have really clear pictures of them. I do have some fascinating recollections of other realities that I've been to, that I visited while this body slept. So when we start realizing,
Adam, you talk about a dream state, or literally consciously sitting down doing that about?
I woke up after being in a sleep state, but with vivid recollections of being various places and doing certain things that defied the physics of this world.
Wow.
All right? And so I've been given insights into my nature. We are actually freer than we know we are, especially when we live in a reality that is based primarily on the particle and the molecule as the definer of what is real, when in fact it is only the effect. It's not real. What is real is not measurable, and that's who we are.
Well, don't you find a lot of this is about perception? It's like what you were, to go back to, you started talking about Dr. Hammer and cancer and his view of cancer. His perception of what's happening in the body is that that's actually a healing process. I think Wil talks about that often. It's the body actually taking the toxins and placing it somewhere in like a tumor form, and that's the healing process. So that's a very different way of looking at what the body is doing. It's perception, wouldn't you guys say?
Perception is a great part of it. Understanding is also, because he didn't have cancer before, but he had great grief.
Yes.
And when you're in a certain frame of mind, the body creates chemistry. The body assembles the elements that are within it in certain ways in response to the frame of mind. And
Goes into everything, right, Adam? Like we were talking about, it's you know, everything is a macrocosm and a microcosm, all that.
It's true. It's very, very true.
Yeah.
And so as he got over his own grief, or he processed it in a certain way, he came up and he created that relaxation that caused the lesions to go away, and it caused the cancerous condition to go away. You see, so again, it was a restoration of balance. And the thing that each of us can benefit from a certain amount of self-understanding is that the ability to restore balance is within everyone. But it begins with the willingness to. And this unbalanced reality that we have become so accustomed to, the point of overreaction. We have made overreaction the norm. I mean, how many people they grew up in this macho society, and they're going down the street, guys with their girl, and somebody looks at their woman with some admiration, and there's some hell to pay for that. I mean, we've cultivated some very, very dysfunctional norms. I'll just put it that way, which are unsustainable. We elevate the talk. Okay, well, if this person does this, I'm going to do this much more. So they won't do it. But really, what we're doing is we're elevating the stress and the trauma, and it's a spiral that can only be stopped by refusing to continue to give into it. It's very fascinating.
Adam, you're starting to touch on one of Will's topics that he's very involved in now, which I think we touched on the last show, but the whole trauma and what that causes in the body, and especially early childhood trauma. Correct, Will? Because that's something you've been talking a lot.
Early childhood and generationally passed down.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We have, well, a book that everyone should really get and read is The Biology of Aggression. If you understand what that book is, just understanding what that book is creating aggression on all levels, from the cellular to the chemical, hormonal, to the environmental, and then controlling the aggression. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, absolutely.
I just heard some clicking going on there.
Yeah, a little clicking there.
So
no, that sounds all planned. I mean, that
I see the dysfunction that has now become the norm that Adam was just talking about, strategically implemented for the last 75 years. There's no accident we have citrus greening today. There's no accident we have cancer the way it is today. There's no accident. What's that?
Autism.
Autism. Yeah. Autism, Lyme disease.
Alzheimer's. All of those.
Alzheimer's. Heck, we can even go to diverticulitis. I mean, these things we have today that are normal, if you want to look at that word, that are so prevalent that it's like not even second guess that, oh, there's autism. When you understand what is going on in our world, it's almost overwhelming when you first wake up to it. I just happened to grow up knowing a lot of this. Like, I got introduced to the dysfunction in 1978, was my introduction as a kid, and lived most of my life trying to prove these old guys wrong. And I can't. We have a society today that it's been pre-programmed for this. There are some, hiccups in the way, because nature will always try to restore the balance, even though how bad, just like citrus greening. It's no different than colony collapse disorder in the bees. It's no different than autism. It's no different than the other diseases that humans are having right now. We all are having the same problem. We're all having the problem of the body's only able, or the tree or the environment is only able to sustain this kind of balance. Think about that for a moment. We're standing in a grove with thousands of trees, and the best that these trees can do with what they have to do it with is almost death.
Yep.
We live in a body. The best that our body can do, and the best our body's balancing act and homeostasis can be, is a list of 12 different diseases for most people. Or 10, or 1. Just pick a number. My point is that our bodies, our organisms that we're around in our environment, they're really doing the very best that they possibly can with what tools they have and the environment to sustain it. So that indicates to me is we have a really big problem. If the best that tree can do is produce kind of sick fruit and be half dead, that's only a symptom of the problem. The problem isn't the sick tree. The problem isn't the sick human. The problem is that there needs to be something done to alter the environment which we live in. And I'm looking at the human and the tree because we all live in the same environment. That's a huge concept to think about and to observe. I've been observing it for a long time. You mentioned something, I believe, Nancy, just a little bit ago. I've caught myself 2 days ago, I got caught up in my own negative patterns. I got comfortable. And I let my guard down. And I'm trying to create new workable patterns inside of me for communicating, for business relationships, for personal relationships. I let my guard down because I felt comfortable.
Right.
And 2 weeks later, I wake up to the fact that, oh my gosh, I got emails to return. What happened? I've got people mad at me. What happened? I'm finding myself sitting at my desk, wondering why I'm sitting at my desk. So I'm attempting to be transparent here because I know I'm not the only one that have these distractions. It's human nature in a way. Like Dr. Hamer found out that when you live a life and you're not aware of things and you can be let your attention slide, you can then wind up with cancer.
Yeah.
So now I'm picking myself back up, my bike, and I'm back on my bike, and I'm pedaling my bike, and I'm back at it again.
Aren't we all?
Yeah, and my worst enemy is me. Because I've been programmed generationally, and I can go back 3 generations easily and see this pattern that's very destructive. That I fall off my bike, I pick my bike up, and I learn how to ride my bike. But when it's in my life, I make a mistake. I forget something. I slip and I fall. I forget something again. But why don't I get back on my bike and pedal again? Because I was taught to beat myself up. I was taught to shame myself. I was taught to be very negative towards myself. I was taught to shun positiveness. That's a big problem. And it's a systemic problem amongst humans especially.
It's true. Very much so.
And so I can change, but it only lasted for a month because then I went unconscious and I forgot about some things and then I let it slip and I got comfortable. And then I wake up going, oh my gosh, what just happened? 2 weeks later. And now my biggest fight with me is not beating myself up and resisting the positive change.
That's a challenge, Will. I think we all deal with that on some level.
It's a huge problem because we live in an egotistical society. And I find myself, I was raised by very industrial, egotistical parents. And I was taught these patterns. And I'm waking up now, darn near 50 years later, to these patterns that are extremely destructive for me. I can't even have a decent relationship with a gal because these programs that were put into me before I was conscious of anything are still there. When I don't think about them, they just start running like a default program in my computer. If I'm not aware of the Trojan horse that somebody put in there, 2 years later, now my computer's not working.
In you know this, Will, in Landmark they call that it. It's silver.
Yeah.
But well, I mean, you know what? The best advice on that is, as it happens and it comes up and you notice it, just do that. Just notice it, because in noticing it, there's an opportunity for an opening, and that's where you with a capital Y, really comes out. Instead of all this chaos and all this, it goes back into what Adam was saying before, and we're meant to thrive. We're meant to feel good and find balance and be alive, and most of us are not living that because we just fall into patterns. But just notice the pattern, and as soon as you notice it, you stop for a moment, right, Cheryl?
You take a lesson from little Mika. She shouldn't beat herself up, and if she falls down, she just gets back up again, right?
Awesome.
Well, the other thing too, from our culture, we talked about money, we talked about the things that we value. Or let's put it this way, the fact that we value things, okay, as opposed to value being. We or value the essence of who each of us is. We are actually the creators of all that we see, but we look at all that we see and see it as being created. We even see ourselves as being created. And I have come to a place of even acknowledging, no, I'm not created. I created.
Absolutely.
I created. I am not created.
Yeah.
Okay? And that includes this form. I am here because I desire to be here, not because I was put here. Okay, so I am here to do something, and I'm here because I have the power to do something. And so we tend to, if you listen to language, you listen to how people talk. Generally speaking, we talk in the third person. We talk in the voice of the observer of things.
Yeah, good.
We don't speak in the experiencer role that much, okay? Well, and in the passive voice is really what it is, as opposed to the active voice. And yet we, to change something, we will need to step into who we are and be active. There's another reason for the term activism, because it's about being active yourself in the embodiment of the purpose that you brought yourself here for. Okay, so it's you become aware of this concept of someone doing something for you, this concept of someone judging you, and yet we also oftentimes hear ourselves. I know I've heard myself say, I'm my worst critic. Well, hell, why is it easier to say I'm my worst critic than to say I'm my best friend?
It's amazing. You hear this again and again, though, Adam, especially when you get a group of people together and people start sharing. That's such a human experience that you think because you're looking at somebody and they have a smile on their face or they seem to be having their life together, that there's something perfect going on with them that you don't possess. You know what I'm saying?
Especially when we're looking at the stuff. We're judging by the stuff.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
What all of that, and we're not looking at the essence of the being.
Yeah. And by the way, for the viewers, this kind of ties into another show we had on emotions and our emotions affecting our health. And this ties into that very nicely. So you can look that show up. We had our good friend Bob on there. So that's, it's a topic that's just so vast. And we all feel it, but it's, again, I think it's just noticing it and not judging it when it comes up, because we all make mistakes. We all have the voice inside that's telling us something negative, and even the planet is dealing with that. So, maybe we restore the planet a little bit every time one of us says, you know what, I'm okay. I'm looking for balance, and somehow you guys are helping to restore balance in both plant and animal. That's awesome. I mean, you're thinking outside the box. You both have a different perception of the way this life can be. It's a perception of possibilities as opposed to a little box like the medical field and the military and everything else tries to keep us in. And so bravo to you guys, because you give us hope that, there's something to be done.
Well, I think seeing the things that need to be done as, first of all, doable, and also inevitable success. A lot of people may not, if we go based on our educational system and our behavioral conventions, it would be safe to say that people are disinclined to give much weight to the power of their thoughts. You can't. Well, the truth is, you can see people's thoughts, but in generally speaking, they are something that are not as evident as one's surroundings and stuff. But if people understood that energy, that experiences tend to coalesce around the predominant thoughts that we hold, it would then be worth exercising this, consider this a hypothesis, but try it in the sense that instead of, when you look at your feed, your news feed in Facebook, and you're seeing, oh, this and that, oh my God, oh geez, oh my God, and you see this time and time again, or you watch the news, and it's all about what this terrorist group has done and what that terrorist group has done, or you look at your favorite shows on TV, and there's this crime show and that crime show and this crime show and that crime show, and there is a predominance there, but these are all simply suggestions. It's still up to you and I as individuals, not to sit back and judge, oh, they're thinking negatively, something like that. I don't really care about it one way or another. The point is, it's important for us to have our own vision of what we want to see in this life, and then be actively involved and motivated to do something to make that vision happen. That's what gives people purpose in life. Otherwise, we'll be fed with all of these suggestions that are negative, that are destructive, that are stress-causing or trauma-inducing, or they get the imagination running, and they skew perception. So the balancer must be us. You cannot, you can't expect and anticipate. One day, once upon a time, when I learned about this thing called cancer, for example, how many times have you thought, well, I want to be the one to defeat it, and stuff, and then you hear this little kid come up and say, what do you want to be when you grow up? I want to come up with a cure for cancer, and in your heart of hearts, you feel the innocence of that little being seeing something that is clearly a blight in this world, and they're wanting to do something about it. And then you get to a point, though, of realizing the truth that that things are the way they are because someone wants them that way, you know. So the point basically is that, okay, let's say that is the case. Still, does it mean it has to be that way? And ultimately, or does it have to be that way for me? You know, if I see myself as having less influence over the course of my life than someone else who has just set something up and has got a program running, then it's very likely I'll be susceptible to that. I think the case and the opportunity for us, for each of us, is first of all stepping up and let's get to a place of equality, in the sense that, like I said, I see eye to eye, I experience heart to heart, no matter who they are, whether I like what they're doing or whether I agree with it or not, or whether they agree with what I'm doing or my point of view or not, is immaterial. Terry Cole Whitaker wrote the book, What You Think of Me Is None of My Business. and that's really topical in this kind of situation. But if we have something that, and I'm excited, I'll give you an example. I am excited about the fact that healing is not a fluke. Healing is not something that one gets lucky about. Healing is something that will simply happen when we take all the distorting and the trauma-causing elements away. The natural response to that will be a gradual and inevitable restoration of normalcy, and normalcy is health.
Well,
You know?
Adam, that's where Will comes in with he and I and Cheryl have all noticed working with different people that they'll go through all the scans, the supplements, all of the changes in diet and all of that, and then they get to a certain point and something stops them. And at that point, I think there's something else going on, and it's exactly what you're talking about. It's that there's something emotional happening inside, and that seems to be keeping them enough out of balance that no matter what you do, it can't be fixed until you deal with that emotion. And that's where forgiveness and all kinds of things like that come in. Did you want to comment on that, Will? Because I know you've had experience with it as well.
Well, I do. I I got a little distracted and my thoughts here.
I'll put you on the spot there, Will. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Be quiet over there, sir. We were going to get you.
No, I'm just being real here.
Yeah, that was great. That was perfect. Oh God. Yes. Well, we're yeah.
Here's an opportunity.
Go for it.
Well, I'm just using this opportunity where I had three things going on here simultaneously and lost my thought and the plot here, what we were talking about, and how distracted we really are.
Gosh, yeah.
I was talking with my two kids this morning before school, and it was something seriously about how we're scheduling is and things, and one of them started playing with the dog. I'm like, well, what are you doing? You're not paying attention here. So here I'm saying I was bad, and I allowed myself to be distracted while we were having this interview here.
Well, we won't yell at you, Will. It's okay.
Well, I know that, but
but you're yelling.
Why I do it, because I know I'm not going to get in trouble. But my point is, though, that we are so easily to be distracted, and then we don't listen. And I'll be the first to admit that I do that.
Well, like you said, we all have things. Go ahead.
There's a point to me to finish that, and I have a very low self-esteem. My view of myself is very low, and I'm noticing that, and I'm working on that with my own internal self. Then my children pick this up, so they don't listen. My parents did that to me a lot, and so now I'm seeing this happen in me, and I did it to my kids almost by default.
Yeah.
I don't listen. So I'm saying that a few times because I don't hear it, because I'm not listening. Because my program is I don't listen. I don't care for myself. You see, it ties into the whole conversation we're having here.
Well, I noticed that one, there's a lot going on here, right? I'm watching everybody's faces, and I'm thinking of where I have to bring things next, and
Yeah.
I haven't spoken in a while. So I'm half in the conversation and then half in my life before, and I think we all do that. That's it running our lives. Those are the patterns that kind of just habitually happen. And then we're noticing stupid things about ourselves. What do I look like on screen right now? Oh, we got a couple of viewers. I wonder what they're thinking. Oh, they disappeared. Uh-oh, that means we're bad. I mean, there's a lot of crap that winds up in our minds, and that's just little stupid things. But then there's all the what you're talking about, degrading yourself internally and saying I'm not good enough, and
Well,
we all feel that way.
Adam said that a very important statement earlier about I'm my worst critic.
Yeah,
I'm not just my own critic. I'm the gauntlet that I run beating myself. My children picked that up. I picked it up from my parents. Where did they get it from? They didn't. They had to learn it from somewhere. And now, just like Dr. Hamer is saying, in German New Medicine, and now we have cancer lesions. Well, we know now that the lesions are really from infections, but what brought our immune system down to allow the infections to cause the cancer?
that's right.
It all started with these defeating programs that we are given before we're able to even know anything. And here I'm an adult and I'm having feelings like a child. Why? Well, I wasn't taught anything different. I was taught this. You see, and I'm not blaming my parents. My parents they did the best they possibly could with what they had, which was still better than grandparents.
Well, these programs, I remember that coming up in the emotions show, are kind of run by kind of input from our life. It's always looking for input. What are we smelling? What are we, like triggers from our environment and other people, of course. And it doesn't seem like it's very easy to change those programs either. They just kind of take hold of us. I
Well, the changing is easy because all it is I'm here. Now I'm going to turn 90 degrees this way.
So you're
Okay,
saying it's
that's
just
a change.
a decision,
That's a change.
right?
But I'm coming back. It's the not staying over here is the
Yeah.
problem. Like I said earlier, I had developed some patterns only for about a month, and then my default was, oh, back over here.
Mm-hmm.
I let it slip because I went unconscious because I got comfortable. Because that comfortable that I created with those new patterns was so enjoyable. I was like, oh, yes. And then what happened? The Trojan horse with the default program kicked in, and then 2 weeks later I wake up going, holy crap, how did I do this again? I'm
Right.
falling off the wagon. Well, there's a time frame that has been determined, which I'm pretty much agreeing with, that I forget regularly, and that is it takes 14 weeks to create one new habit.
Ah,
Solidify a habit in your body to stay here requires 14 weeks of diligence. And guess what? I was there for 4 weeks. And then I slipped. I got comfortable.
Right.
And then 2 weeks later, I wake up to the fact that it seems like I have stopped communicating with those in my environment, and now I'm creating havoc in my environment by my being comfortable in default. And now I'm back uncomfortable again, wondering why I'm here. And I have amnesia on top of it because I can't remember a damn thing.
Well,
So I've had people remind me and like, oh yeah, see, my problem is I don't make notes. Or if I do make notes, I forget them and I put them over here and I got pile over here. And then I'm like, oh, screw it, I won't even have any notes. I got it. You
yeah.
see, that's my default program. My default program is sabotage every single thing you do.
Well, you haven't succeeded at that, Will.
What's that?
You haven't succeeded at sabotaging everything because you wouldn't have achieved and helped as many people as you have.
I know. That's the amnesia part of it because I forget the good things that I've done.
See?
Well, I don't necessarily see that as being bad. I think the beauty is that there's so much to be done, and you have in fact, and well, first of all, there's so much to be done, and I see us, I see us in a really wonderful place where even with all the crap that's going on, I see people are waking up. I'd say if I'm any indication, I know that I'm not alone. I know that you're not alone, Will. I feel that more people are waking up to the fact that first of all, there's some major wool pulling being done right now over people's eyes, if you will. It has been happening for a long time, but it's also shredding. People are starting to see through this stuff, and it's becoming less and less acceptable. So there's one thing for people to be doing something, and there's another thing for us to be watching it, even taking exception to it, and yet doing nothing about it to change it. And I realize that sometimes it appears that the problems do seem to be bigger than we are, but it's actually not so. We can change a situation. One thing, not just Walter Russell, a number of people have said, they've talked about the interrelatedness, the interconnectedness of everyone to everything throughout all of creation, throughout all of the cosmos. We are connected to everything and everyone. And so when we make a change, even in a one-to-one situation, say with a stranger, whereas we might have been looking at a person suspiciously, trying to see if there was something, if they're about to do something wrong, if we do something instead of out of fear in that situation, and we do it well, maybe ask a question, maybe step up, put our fears aside, but step up and treat a person the way we want to be treated. Just be the example. You literally do. We absolutely change the things in the whole of creation. We can do that. We don't have to be sitting on Capitol Hill or sitting at some huge console to actually affect a change in the state of this world. So it takes a lot of the weight that we might be putting on ourselves by looking at the complexity of it all And no, it's really about where we are here and now, because in the true scheme of things, that's all that exists.
Adam, you're reminding me of a cool quote I have here. It's, you're not stuck with who you wound up being. You can choose who you want to be. And that's all, you know, it's all a choice. Like Will said, you make a decision to turn away from a certain behavior, to open up to something new. There's a possibility there, and you go for it.
Let me make a choice.
Yeah.
That's right. You remember? You ever hear the statement, "Even a clock that's not running is right twice a day"?
That's it. There you go.
So we might as well, you know, it's like when I was younger, I liked to play basketball and stuff. I said, well, I can't miss them all, you know. So sooner or later, I'm going to hit something, you know. So I'm just excited about the things that we can do. I'm excited about the things that. And I guess I should even at least describe some, because we've cultivated an unsustainable way of we've cultivated an unsustainable society, and maybe someone knows it's unsustainable. Maybe that's why it seems like you got a pyromaniac going around different parts of the world trying to start wars here and there, trying to light fires to get people pissed and then go after them because maybe people will wake up and see how manipulated they've been, and hopefully they can get people to destroy everything before they've been found out. I at least in my cosmology and in my view, that's not going to happen. And until I'm not going to say until proven otherwise, I'm going to stick with the idea that that's not going to happen. I'm going to stick with the idea that more and more people are going to see, first of all, that they have power themselves in their reality, you know, as opposed to necessarily bringing stuff in from all over the planet. It's not that you don't care about what's going on in other parts of the world, but what's relevant to your reality is what's happening in your here and now. And if you're living in fear, terrorism, if a person is fearful, then the terrorism is going to hit them where they are. Okay? Yeah. And yet, if you're not fearful, terrorism is not going to hit you anywhere. We have a choice. As I did an atomism last week, when Nancy and I were talking, I talked about the fact that the planet Earth has the ability to reset its own balance. It doesn't need humanity's help. The benefit here is for humanity to recognize that balance must be restored, needs to be restored, and that instead of waiting for someone to do it for us, which is not going to happen, the planet may do it for herself, but no one's going to come here and restore the crap that we've done here or allowed to be done here just to be of the same mind to redo it all over. Right. The only way that's going to change is we change our mind, our way of looking at things, realizing that health and healing, health is sustained in balance, healing is restored in balance. Either way it goes, balance is where we need to be, is where we need to go, is what we need to invest in, is what we need to put our heart and soul in, is simply restoring balance. And that means to value everyone, to value all life, and also to value oneself. That means to love oneself and to treat others the way you want to be treated. It's real simple, and that is very, very doable by everyone.
Adam, you know something? If I didn't feel good before this show, I feel good now. You have this way of just lifting the room. I love it. I love it. So, and I know our viewers are feeling that too, you know. I mean, it's great because both of you, all of us here, are kind of bringing our own special, you know, kind of view on what's going on in our own lives, and that equates to everything else too. So it's
Well, it does, and there clearly is a great amount of effort has been made, is being made to get people to have the worst possible opinion about the future. And
yeah,
see, and if you subscribe to that worst possible outcome scenario, then you're creating it. See, the point is, it's important for people to have their own view of what they want to experience in life, what they want this world to be, their own view, and then to live it, to be the person that you're hoping to see show up. It's for us to be that person, and we're taught and conditioned to think that, you know, we're less than that person. We need a superhero. Okay, it's all of these ideas have been just simply plotted out there. This person is super. You're not. Guess what? This little band of folks are going to use their superpowers to change the world. Look at the fairy tales we are still being fed, and not invited to step up and grow up, to look back and look at a police officer and say, "Excuse me, how dare you?" Okay, even if the police officer, you know, you can say those things in with respect for yourself and respect for that person too. You know, I mean, this is a great place and opportunity to start showing that we've grown up, that our eyes are open, and our hearts are open too, and our minds are open, because we know that the changes that we are seeking are literally possible.
absolutely.
And also, we know that the actions that are being taken, whether it's about fluoridating and putting chloride and fluoride in water, whether it's chemtrails, whether it's all those pesticides and herbicides. Will and I were out there because, certainly because, not because we liked what was going on there, but we knew it could be changed. We know this can be changed. Even if that farmer didn't know, I know this can be changed, and I know for the benefit of myself and for my neighbor and for my kids and for people that I know or don't know, people that, again, may like me or not like me, I don't really care. It's going to help them too. It's when you care about everyone. And I don't see that modeled very much at all in our general society. I watched the NCAA championship game last Monday, and it was nice to watch it, not attached to who won or not, you know. But it was interesting to watch all of the hype build up, all the hype, all the talk, and everything else, to the epic nature of this game and everything else. And then, you know, they play the game, and then a kid hits a buzzer beater, you know, and their team wins, and then the other team is devastated. That is a trauma. Every one of those kids was traumatized because they haven't been taught that this is I want to say, fucking game.
Right.
This isn't the life. This isn't the definer of your life. Although many of them will, until they wake up. I'm watching. I'm preparing another article for my blog, and today I've been looking at photos and bios of athletes who have each committed suicide, and they were defined as having something called CTE, some type, again, trauma on the brain. And the thing about it, though, Yes, there's stress, there's trauma from the experiences that they had playing these sports. Most of them were football, but some of them were some others. But the other part of it was medications that they were given. Medications are not looked at all. We hear that, oh, they took this drug. If it's a prescription, we go blank. We don't consider the biological and the metabolic effects of those chemicals, because those chemicals affect consciousness, and people don't know, they haven't connected to that, and that's been by design too.
Of course. Well, you know, that we post a lot of things about that on the kitchen, how these pharmaceutical drugs, oh my goodness. And that's what we're trying to avoid.
Well,
They
it's
used to be
pharmaceutical.
shocking.
Go ahead.
Oh, it used to be shocking to see how many pharmaceutical drugs would come up on the scans for people who weren't even taking them at all. They aren't on anymore, but they were there for a time. And
Thank you,
we
FDA.
saw. Yeah.
Yeah, what happened with that, guys?
Pesticides.
And it's all the alphabet agencies, because the EPA. I mean, I'm wondering what environment were they protecting? You know, when you get down. I mean, Will, we were in an environment, and I don't see any evidence of any protection going on. So it's like those are the things. These trusted institutions are actually the instruments of quite a bit of, I'll just say, skullduggery at this point in time, that people, and we're dealing with these institutional policies, the whole vaccine story, the fact that it's a debate, the fact that there actually are still people attempting to increase and force these things. I mean, this is evidence of something that is not what it purports to be. It's a society that is not what it purports to be. We're talking about building walls and I mean, you know, we come into this world naked and vulnerable and very much dependent on people's love.
Yeah.
And we may get it or we may not.
And we leave the same way.
That's true. Although, you know, most of the time they try to fill the body up with fluids that make it non-biodegradable. I tell you, I think someone is really attempting to trap souls in some type of physical reality, which we need to wake up. Is really kind of what it boils down to. Not be afraid of death, but in terms of the body, because that's the only thing that can die. But the other thing is not being afraid to live. And I know there are many things, I can speak for myself, that I've been really kind of afraid to do. I grew up in a Southern Baptist environment, and I respect and love and know I was loved. But there were certain rules and regulations, and there were certain, you know, all this ecumenical drama and all this other stuff going around. And as a kid, as a child, you know, your light just gets pushed down, compressed, to the point that, you know, you just don't want to piss anybody off. Okay? And I think the vast majority of the population of this planet lives in that place of not wanting to piss anyone off and not thinking that much of who they are, or not knowing and having not taken the time to express themselves, to discover truly what they want to be, what they enjoy being, how they enjoy expressing themselves. I don't think we're bullies by nature. People who are bullies have been bullied, okay, and then they look for others that they can do it and get away with. It's pretty much that simple, you know.
Yeah.
I have some good news to add. If if I may, can you hear me?
Yeah, you're echoing this a touch, but it'll stop.
Well, it'll stop. Okay, so about 10 years ago, I come to this thought that comes screaming through my consciousness, and it was that we live in third dimension. We live in a environment that is this balance we're talking about. This yin yang, plus minus, light dark, love hate,
Dualistic.
a total dualistic.
Mhm.
So we're pretty heightenedly aware of all the negative around us because we're being told all the negative around us, whether it's real or not. So the thing that I had, basically, I was sitting in my fish house staring down the hole at the bobber for a couple of days. I had the time then. And I'm like, you know what? That bobber goes down and the bobber came back up. Do you know we're missing out on the other half of the negative in our environment? We're missing out on all the positives that equal out all the negatives. You know that there is just as much positive things going on around us than the negative things that are going on around us. When I discovered that, my whole everything changed. I became more of an optimist. I'm like, wow, do you realize you're hearing all of this junk? Most of it's not even real, especially around politics right now, religion right now, terrorism right now. Do you
Medicine.
realize that there is just as much compassion, love, long suffering, and understanding around in our environment as well? But
Absolutely.
we're so programmed to deny or to shun or to just not be aware of it. Like people say, I'm going to work to defeat cancer. Well, first of all, it's not a war.
Right. It's
It was a created entity, and we're being told that we need to war against something. So there's 125 different cures that I can think of really pretty easily, most of them, because cancer is not the problem.
Yep.
So here we are talking about highly philosophical type of things today. And that's why I wanted to share this, because we're talking about chemicals, and we're talking about diseases, and we're talking about all this junk. But do you realize that there is just as much positive junk around us, if you want to look at it that way? There is just as much opposite of the negative that we've been talking about.
Absolutely.
That's why I was so empowered standing in that grove of sick trees with Adam. Because Adam looked at me and he said something, and I don't remember exactly what he said, but I remember what I thought. And what I did when I got home is I took the pictures that I collected and what Adam shared with me, and I made a collage and I put it in my office. And my collage says, real activism.
Mm.
I had a backpack sprayer on my back. Adam was there as well as I was there, and these other people were there, and we were making a real difference. Whether anybody else saw that or not, didn't matter. I was there, and Adam was there, and we were creating the world that we want to see. We weren't sitting here in our lounger typing away, being active. That's not being active. That's your fingers are moving,
That's right.
but you're just whining. You're not resisting Monsanto. You weren't marching against Monsanto. Who cares about Monsanto? Who cares about all this crap? Stop playing the game, and the game goes away. If we would treat life like a Monopoly game, or Connect Four, or whatever, pick a game, how do you end the game? How do you end any game? You take your cards and you put them on the table and you say, good night.
Right.
You end the game.
It's what we're paying attention to then. It's what we're giving our attention to. That's part of it.
Stop giving away your life to these make-believe things. I mean, it's really simple. The stocks in fast food restaurants are dwindling. The stocks in a lot of these commercial businesses like Walmart and all these other companies like Monsanto, like Ciba Geigen, like Bayer Crop Science,
Sure.
as people stop playing the conventional agriculture game and they turn to the older game, which is called sustainable agriculture, the companies that are promoting this conventional agricultural idea are going away. They're falling in the ditch because people are not holding them up anymore. That's activism.
Yeah. There you go.
So there is that's what helps me be positive in the day and helps me be positive going to sleep at night. I may screw up, I know. I'm really hard on myself, and I'm learning to be more compassionate towards myself.
Will
At
help.
the same time, if more people would begin to do this, stop playing the game, and let's play a different game. That's all I'm saying is let's play a different game.
Well, we're playing a different game here.
I know. That's why I'm here. I love it.
We're having a conversation, and you know what? That goes out to the universe, too. It does.
I say we're contributing to the new game.
That's right. That's right.
You know,
Thank you,
I
people,
just have
for
my little thing in my own life, something I can do. I've been inspired by both of you to, and your different products in a way. I want to make a straw bale garden. I have 10 bales of straw now because I have quite a bit of land, but the soil is clay and rocks, and it is difficult, really difficult. A lot of work. It would take a lot of potting soil, different things. But anyhow, I've discovered straw bale gardens, and I'm going to experiment with it. I'd like to get one of Adam's attachments to put on the hose when it stops raining, like, you know, because we don't get much rain for after May. You get that structured water on my plants and use use his products and make some nutrient-dense food and get it down and teach other people how to do it. You know, get my chickens healthy. There's just a lot of little things people can do.
That's not little, Cheryl. Did you hear that? That's not little. You're changing your life and creating what you want to be a positive influence in your life, in those around you. That is extremely huge.
Okay.
And you're not asking for anyone's permission to do it.
You're just doing it.
Right.
Activism.
That's called growing up, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really fascinating. We think about how, to what extent we have been conditioned to expect someone else to do stuff for us, or you know, the Crusaders. They're looking to find the cures to this and the cures to that, and you know, they're close and stuff. It's really amazing to see how sophisticated and how pervasive the system is. All these various pieces, but it's been happening for generations, way before we showed up on this planet. And so, it's not. You know, there is a. I wrote an article about inertia on a few weeks ago, because unless there is some force that causes a change in direction, things will continue to just roll on the way they are, even if we're rolling toward an abyss. You know, for a different direction for a different outcome to occur, a different direction has to be taken. Different thoughts have to start the process, and different intention, different visions, actually they inform the thoughts. So you have different, your intention and your vision, they then impact your thoughts, which then impact your action, and that is the circle that actually brings that new reality into formation. And it does change the direction of things.
Awesome. Well, guys, on that note, I think we had a great show tonight, and I hope our viewers enjoyed it. I know we had a few people checking in, and Cheryl, you know, you just reminded me, so I don't forget to tell you, that strawberry bale garden, I bet people would be very interested to see that on the kitchen. So
Yeah.
you might want to post some things about that, see if you can find some little things to let people know about that. And also, Will, someone in the kitchen was wondering how to get your products for nourishing the plants and things like that. So maybe you can post something about that. And Adam, I would
share
love.
you that our websites are back up.
Yeah,
Actually, I think Adam has helped quite dramatically. Thank you, Adam, in contributing to the pictures and things. We were updating a bit some of our product labels and things. So I think you can even get them off Adam's website.
Oh wow. I didn't see it on the website, Will. Where is it on the website? Like product?
It's not on bodyelectrician.com. They're on environautics.com.
So maybe I'll post.
We have a lot of updating we're doing this year now that our server is up and functioning again, and we're getting more stable. So just stay tuned. Calling is always best.
Terrific. And Adam, would you like to just tell us too the name of your water website?
It is presidentwater.com, and that's where we have a whole line of vortex generators. And I also, at some point soon, and Will and I will confer, because there are some molecular hydrogen products coming out, or there is one coming out that I think we're going to want to talk about molecular hydrogen real soon too, and I can plant some seeds for future conversations. Hydrogen is an amazing thing as well, and water. Our vortex generators make more of it available, as well as hydrogen, as well as oxygen, but there are some things that can be done even beyond that, particularly for health remediation purposes.
Good. I'll be sure to put something on the on our Body Electrician Community Kitchen page there, our group, which a shout out to everybody out there. And I just want to thank you guys. It was a brilliant show, it really was, and you guys opened up all kinds of possibilities for great new things. And thanks for being here.
Thank you for having us.
You're welcome, and thank you.
Thank you. All righty, guys. I think we'll say goodbye. So everybody blow a kiss to all the watchers out there.
Night.
Night.
All right.
Good night.
Good night.